Hey gang, Kage here at the Crawl Space. Finally getting around to some tech videos here. We're going to keep this quick and easy as possible. This one is going to be on the RC4WD King shocks, which all this information will also apply to their rock crawler shocks, basically the black ones they got. And the King shocks have come under scrutiny for a good couple years. Well, when they first came out, we loved them just because of the style, the look, the scale look of them, and just the overall quality that they had. But there were some issues with them. The biggest being, for me at least, helping customers is how to set the shocks up. So we're going to go over that. We'll start with the King shocks. Pulled one out of the box just to show you what we work with, and a few tools. We're going to have a little razor knife here. I get these pretty cheap at Harbor Freight. They're 25 cents when they're on sale. We're going to use that. A pair of pliers. These came from Radio Shack. I've been using these for a while and they are great. What's nice is, if you can see here, if I'm getting it in the camera, there's the wire stripper, which I don't use too much, but then you've got these holes here that allow me to grab onto the shock shaft. Some of you who fish might also know about some fishing pliers that have these holes as well. So either these or some fishing pliers work. And then we've just got my regular, my trusty 2.0 hex driver here. All right, why do we have all this stuff? Oh, real quick too, we've got some diff oil, not shock oil, but diff oil is what we use in these shocks. And then we've got some green slime here. You can get that. It's Team Associated green slime. It's to take care of shocks here and basically make all the O-rings nice and soft and smooth. So that was a big thing too, is people were putting shock oil in these and they weren't working too well because they're too springy. So what's the next step? We thought, well, what's the next step we can use? I've heard people use motor oil. I've heard people use .3, .4 brake fluid. We found that diff oil that you would put into an open diff works well, and they come in different thicknesses or viscosities, which just like shock oil, but it's a lot thicker. So we got that going on there. We'll get started here, and we're gonna prep the shock for setup. So we're gonna take the shock cap off, set that over there. We've got the springs and the collar. We're gonna set that over there. We're gonna pop the top off here. Now, when you're doing a full set of shocks, these will have some, as we call it, Chinese fish oil in it. So I just let it drain out. But for this video, we're just gonna let them go. To start, well, we'll let that one drain, and then I'll show you what we do. Now, on this shock cap here, there's threads and an O-ring. And what I do is I'll take this razor knife, don't cut the O-ring, but I will cut perpendicular across the threads to create a small little groove or slit, if you will. See if I can do this without cutting my finger, and hopefully you guys can see it. And I use a cheap razor because this is obviously going to dull the blade. So if you're doing sets of these, you can always snap off an extra set or an extra piece, and you've got a brand new sharp blade. Again, watching to make sure that you don't cut the O-ring. I'm cutting it multiple times to get a nice little groove in there. And what this is going to do is allow all the excess oil in the shock to express outward while we are assembling the shock. And I'll double check it on the shock for threading. Now go easy here. Okay, it's tight, but it threads. And if you need some help, we've got our piece here, and then that will help rethread everything. And again, I'll grab my pliers here, lightly hold the shock body. If you're concerned, you can always wrap your pliers in some tape or a paper towel or just a towel in general. And then we'll pop that off there. Cool. Looks like that drained pretty well. I'll clean that off, and then we'll come out over here and we're going to prime the shock cartridge. So I unscrew the top, unscrew the bottom of the shock cartridge here. I pull this way a little bit, and you can see those O-rings start to pop out. And there's a little spacer. So there's going to be this little cap piece here, O-ring, spacer, and then there's another O-ring in here, and then another little cap piece that goes on the shock shaft. And what I do is I take a liberal amount of this, but not too much, and just put it on there, and I'll just go around the shock shaft like that. And we got a little extra in there, and gently push all that together. Make sure this cap is aligned. Tighten that down nice and snug, and just actuate it. Start moving that oil around, or that grease. Basically, that's what it is. Now, some of it will pop out, and that's fine. Go ahead and clean that off. And then I'm going to take it like this and just put a nice quick turn on it like that, so it's nice and solid. Okay, that feels nice and smooth. And we'll just clean off the shock shaft here. Now we're going to fill the shocks. There's a lot of ways, different ways to fill shocks. Some people do it one way, some people do it the other. I'm not saying one's right or wrong. This is the one that works for this specific shock. So it's a little cold today, so some of this stuff is going to take a little longer just because the oil is nice and thick. So I fill it up about a quarter of the way, and I actuate the piston up and then back down. And that's going to get oil underneath the piston and then allow all that excess air to bubble up. Now, when you're doing a set of shocks, you're going to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, no problem. Another thing we do is to speed the process is stir the oil. And I've got a decent sized paper clip here. I'll stick it down in there. Just kind of stir the oil around a little bit. Now, as we start to fill the shock, I'm going to press down on the shock shaft, driving that piston upwards. Okay, so just like that. Now, obviously the oil is very viscous and it takes some time to get down there. So again, we'll go back to our paper clip and start stirring that oil down. You can see I'm slowly pushing it down. Now this is when it's going to start getting a little messy because that oil is going to pop off the top. But that's okay because you want all the oil in there that you can. You can also use your paper clip here to pop any bubbles that are in there. You can see it start running down there. And then we're going to take some more of that oil and put it in the top of this cap here. Again, get rid of any oil bubbles. Now it's going to start getting real messy. We're going to put that all together like so and start screwing it together. It's always good to have this little slit that you cut in the threads facing towards you so you can kind of see what's going on. And I'm going to hold this slightly awkward, but you can see I'm going to start going like this. Now that shock piston is going to start driving outward. There's very little here. That's no big deal. I'm just going to push it back in. And keep turning, push it back in. There you go, right there. Now, once you get to that O-ring, you're going to want to start cranking it down, and you want to be very gentle here. Okay? And just hit that O-ring just right. It's pushing out just a little bit. Now I run it to the O-ring just enough. Right there. Now you can see it pushed it out in here, but that's okay because we're going to have to mount the shock cap here, and that gives you just enough room for compression. Now, to check if you've done this correctly without any type of air in there, you're going to pull it out and listen to it. Now, if there is any air in here, you'll hear some squeaking, some squishing like that. And fortunately with this one, I did all right and no issues. Now, so this shock is ready to rock. We're going to clean it up real quick. I like using this Absolute Force from Horizon Hobby. It basically cleans everything on the vehicle. No issues whatsoever. Smells fine, isn't too caustic. And then generally, the biggest thing was trying to clean up silicone. If you ever dealt with silicone oil, it can be a bear. But with this Absolute Force stuff, it cleans it up just nice. I have it here at the shop, runs great. Hell, I've even cleaned the bathroom with it. So clean that up a little bit. Now we're going to tighten up this shock shaft real quick. And on these pliers, there's a little slot right here. And I hold on to it there. And I just give it a nice quarter turn. Just enough. There we go. Now that's nice and solid. You can assemble the shock again. Everything's running smoothly, feels good. No squeaky noise, so there's no air. And we assemble it back here together, like so. Put our shock cap on, and there we go. And then you're gonna, obviously you can adjust your preload collar if need be. They also have an extra spring set for these shocks, which I suggest getting into just depending on the weight of the shock, or excuse me, the weight of the truck and the spring rate you're looking for. But now we've got a nice, nice, smooth. Thanks everybody for watching. Please leave any questions or comments in the comment section. I'll try to address them as best as possible. Guys, have a great day. Aloha.